Motion carries. We have approval of a purchase for a vehicle for WMRCL.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council approval of the purchase of one vehicle for the Western Maryland Regional Crime Lab. This vehicle will be purchased from Jennings Chevrolet in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, for a total of $24,900. Funding will be from HPD's Vehicle CIP account number C0129.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of a purchase for one vehicle for HPD investigations.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council approval of the purchase of one vehicle for investigations. This vehicle will be purchased from Keystone Ford in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, for a total of $34,700. Funding will be from HPD's Vehicle CIP account number C0129.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving into our work session, we do have a proclamation today for Forget Me Not Month. We have Mr. James Arnold and company. If you could join me up here.
This is a new command.
So, thank you guys for joining us for Forget Me Not Month. I actually was reading from an old Carol Gale article that wrote about you a couple years ago, and it was heartwarming to see all that you do for our disabled vets in our community. So thank you very much. And it's my honor to present this proclamation for Forget Me Not Month, whereas the Disabled American Veterans Organization offers a variety of free services to disabled veterans and their families. And whereas each year the Disabled American Veterans Organization holds a Forget Me Not Drive, where all proceeds raised are given to those disabled veterans and their families who are in need. And whereas the city of Hagerstown expresses our gratitude to those disabled veterans who valiantly fought to protect our freedom and preserve our way of life. Now therefore be it resolved with the support of the City Council, I, Emily Keller, Mayor of the City of Hagerstown, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2022 as Forget Me Not Month, and encourage our citizens to support the Forget Me Not Drive, which supports our local disabled veterans and their families. Thank you guys very much. Would you guys like to say a couple things?
Thank you.
The microphone is yours.
Hi, first of all, I want to thank the mayor and the city of Hagerstown for recognizing the DAVs. Can you hear me? I got this mask on. I'm the new commander for the DAV chapter in Hagerstown. Any veterans that need any assistance, please contact myself or JR, and we'll try to work on getting your disability rate increased and or getting your claim work done. But in the meantime, thank you, stay safe, God bless, thank you very much.
Thank you for your service.
Over to?
Sorry, this way.
Over here?
Okay, thank you.
I think so. Take care. Thank you. Take care. Stay safe.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
All right, preliminary agenda review. If you guys have any questions, just stop me. I have a regular session next week, August 23rd, and the invocation will be given by
Yep.
Councilmember Brucci. Look, I asked ahead of time this time. We'll have a pledge to the flag, announcements. Rules of procedure will be effective December 15th, 2020. Our meeting schedule for September will be no meeting on September 6th. September 13th and 20th, we'll have a work session at 4 o'clock. And the 27th, we'll have a regular session at 7 p.m. We do have appointments to the City Ethics Commission, the Hagerstown Housing Authority. We'll have citizen comments, and you can come in person or send an email to councilcomments@hagerstownmd.org no later than 5 o'clock on the 23rd. We'll have approval of the minutes. The consent agenda for the fire department, we have the Hearst tool replacement, municipal energy services for $21,908.38. Under IT, we have Munis Pace 15 training package renewal for $12,981.93. Police Department annual software maintenance agreement for HPD Police Mobile for $109,588. 6 2022 Dodge Charger Pursuit vehicles for $218,520. Upfitting of those 6 2022 Dodge Charger Pursuit vehicles for $79,254.84. Dell computers for 6 2022 Dodge Charger Pursuit vehicles for $16,521.78. Upfitting of computers in the 6 2022 Dodge Charger Pursuit vehicles for $12,691.20. Under Planning and Code, court-ordered porch repairs for 418 McDowell Avenue for $38,700. Public Works, City Hall improvements, replace the AC unit and finance for $18,925. Utilities, Light Department emergency purchase inventory items for $56,850. Emergency purchase inventory items for $12,840. Inventory items for $24,540. Eaton Cooper VWE 15 KV recloser, $56,606. That's a mouthful. Service materials, core main LP for $343,625.68. Service materials for $89,803.20. Roof replacement specifications for $38,562. A Ford 23 Transit 150 cargo AWD low roof van, $46,995. Under wastewater,
Just wondering, this is the 2023, what kind of timeline would they give you on that?
It's not good.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because I know what our timeline is.
Yeah. Most of the vehicles that we purchased recently, it's probably a year. And I don't believe this was any different.
Probably not.
Yeah.
All right.
So it'll probably really be,
Yeah, but it'll still be a 23, but it'll be here like.
it'll be. yeah,
25.
it'll be here. Right, exactly.
it'll be here when it gets here, so everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Under wastewater, UV disinfection bulb replacements, $42,413.10. Advanced oxidation system for $24,000. Stone and asphalt for operating and capital projects, $24,050. Stone and asphalt for operating and capital projects, $40,950. Under unfinished business, approval of an ordinance code amendments to Chapter 238 and 240 of the City Code. Under new business, introduction of an annexation resolution, annexation of lands of GVP Hagerstown LLC, 2-14 Western Maryland Parkway. Approval of an annexation plan, annexation of lands of GVP Hagerstown LLC. Approval of a resolution, renewal and expansion of the enterprise zone. Approval of authorizing the issuance of a notice of termination to Synagro. Approval to convert alley 4-019 to one-way westbound. Acceptance of tree grant award. Approval to add 216 South Potomac Street to the competitive negotiated sale list. Approval of guideline changes to home ownership initiative program, down payment assistance. Approval of Hyatt Extended LLC and Bowman Development Corporation request for water under the city's water and wastewater policy. Approval of American Rescue Plan Act state and local fiscal recovery funds, policies and procedures. Approval of a resolution to Maryland Bay Restoration Fund exemption program due to substantial financial hardship, and approval to accept the Maryland Criminal Intelligence Network. And we are also adding the sewer easement for 2 Western Maryland Parkway. City Administrator comments, Mayor Council comments, and we'll adjourn. You guys have any questions? All right, perfect. Up first, we have a request for American Rescue Plan Act funding for United Way's Pathway to Hire program. With us today, we have Heather Gesford, the president, Kelly Tenser, Director of Community Impacts and Investments, and Jocelyn Heyer, Director of Engagement and Marketing. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Have you drive while I talk? Oh, okay. You sure you trust me to drive? Nope. I'm Heather Gesford, President and CEO of Your United Way of Washington County. Annually, we serve 53 agencies or organizations on a regular, consistent basis that connects with 65,000 plus local residents here in Washington County. What we want to talk to you about today is our Pathways to Hire program, utilizing some of the ARPA funds that have been made available here to the city. Who we are trying to target with our ARPA presentation today is our ALICE families. Some of you may be familiar with the term ALICE. Most municipalities in the area, as well as most of your nonprofit organizations and even some for-profit organizations, use our United for ALICE data. United for ALICE is proprietary to United Ways. It is a movement we started several years ago, which we're now in about 50% of the states. And United for ALICE targets those working poor. It stands for asset limited, income constrained, and employed. These are the people that we have identified through extensive research that have been most hard impact during COVID, which is why we thought that our ALICE families would be a natural target for the utilization of ARPA funds. Our ALICE families are those who were proportionately affected, where they were essential workers, your grocery store workers, your frontline healthcare workers such as medical assistants, clerks. These are people that could not work from home and that had to work every single day. Our ALICE families are those that are working hard. Again, they're not setting back on their hands, as some people say that, they're collecting any sort of assistance. These are hardworking people that are just one crisis away from going over our benefits cliff. Essentially, it's one car repair. It is one accident, one medical bill, anything that is just, again, one unexpected, unbudgeted incident that we see too often, that they have zero savings, and if they do have any sort of savings, it's typically less than $400. And again, not to get too much into the weeds with ALICE, but if you're unfamiliar with it, I have put some statistics here for you in your packet. Just understand that there are about 100 more pages in addition to this very short snapshot that you're seeing here. ALICE, we get into demographics, we get into different communities where I can hyper navigate through zip code, even communities where I can navigate through certain areas in Hancock and South County. So again, just for reference here, I put your top line information. The biggest, I would say, to point out, which shouldn't be any surprise to anyone here, is that compared to the county is 40% ALICE population. The city is at a 50% ALICE population. And what that looks like is those living, again, at the federal poverty level or just above it, plus below it. So with the city of Hagerstown, we have 17% living below the federal poverty level. An additional 33% are ALICE. So what the ALICE threshold is for anyone under 65 years of age in our zip code here is $50,000. So that's not a lot when you have, family typically 1-2 children. So the $50,000 income is what the federal government defines as below our poverty level here for ALICE specific families. So you can see why, again, targeting City of Hagerstown residents is obviously a big challenge for us, because it is quite significantly higher than some of our outlying areas in the county. Boonesboro and Smithsburg, shouldn't come as a surprise, has our lowest ALICE population. Our highest ALICE population actually in the entire county is Williamsport. So Williamsport is at 39%, followed by Hancock, Clear Spring. So again, that's obviously, not who we're trying to solve for here today, but just giving you a perspective of what's going on in our county. So you have Smithsburg and Boonesboro really bringing that percentage down pretty low to that 40%. If you take Smithsburg and Boonesboro out, we think countywide we'd obviously be significantly higher than that 40% average. So what we're here to present today, again, ARPA, it's United Way already has a relationship, so to speak, with managing, distributing, reporting on both state and federal funds, including ARPA. Your United Way, we manage all of the emergency food and shelter funds that come in to the county now. We've done that for many, many years. So we're well-versed, well-positioned, well-versed in all things ARPA, any sort of state, federal reporting guidelines. So in presenting this proposal, again, I bring that up because we know what they're looking for, how to record the data, how to capture it, and get it through some of those unfun, unpleasant reporting barriers. So right now, as I mentioned, we're already working with 53 organizations on a regular basis. We feel, again, trying to avoid gross duplication that we see too often in services,
resources. What United Way does every single day is inspire collaboration. We bring all of these groups together so where we can say, we are not going to waste resources, we're going to have X amount of agencies focusing on financial literacy, X amount of agencies focusing on food insecurity. So with this program, and again, United Way would be acting and serving, as we do now with most of our collaboratives, as the lead agency to where we would be bringing agencies together to solve for some of these barriers that are preventing our Alice families disproportionately affected by COVID, bringing them up to gainful employment. How are we going to do that? So again, United Way acting as the lead agency, bringing our collaborative partners in to solve for some of these barriers. Typically, and this shouldn't be a surprise, transportation, childcare, always number one and number two. Other identifiers are basic life skills. These are your professionalism, which too often is lacking with some of these hourly workers we see. They just never had someone really kind of coach them into, you can't be on social media while you're at work. You need to be on time. You need to be early. And then employment documents. This typically surprises a lot of people. It's hard for people to get IDs, birth certificates, things like that. They don't know where to turn. Some of them lost things in a fire. We had an employee actually at our agency that really struggled, who knows the industry, struggling to get a copy of a birth certificate. And she does this, assisting people for a living. So it's hard. And it keeps people from, again, not just, trying to live off of unemployment or trying to live off some sort of service provider, but get that meaningful, gainful employment for them. Other barriers that we're fighting, which is a totally separate animal, is food insecurity. Right now with inflation, it's going through the roof. Housing, obviously, rents are skyrocketing, inventory's low. That's another big barrier, as well as healthcare access to, and also the increase in insurance premiums, all barriers for Alice families. Watching the time. In addition, so how are we going to solve for some of these things with our barriers to employment, transportation? And again, this is our draft proposal to you. Ride United is a program that we've already established. We have a partnership with not just Uber and Lyft, but also DoorDash, where we have a significant amount of grant funding that's been awarded to us already for food delivery, for pet food delivery, but we can also turn that into people delivery. So we would like to utilize our Ride United program to, again, help with some transportation to work. Public transportation vouchers, we've already reached out to some of our public transportation partners on this one, and then again, gas card and reimbursement. Right now, and again, this is pre-gas inflation crisis, owning a vehicle is $439 a month if you're commuting within like 10 miles. If you're commuting 50 miles, that jumps up to $640 a month of an expense. And again, that's before gas. So obviously you can see why transportation may not be a problem for you, but it is a problem for some people, especially living paycheck to paycheck. Second biggest one is childcare. You may be familiar with childcare vouchers. You may not be familiar with that. They do not cover all childcare expenses. They are not comprehensive, and there's not a mandatory acceptance of childcare vouchers at every childcare facility. So childcare vouchers, and again, supplemental items. So for example, with infants, you need to have, sleeping pads and wipes and all of these other things that, again, could be a barrier for a family. How am I on time? Average cost for childcare, again, as you can see, well, you can't see there, but it's almost $10,000 here in our county. So we want to solve for childcare. We've got many childcare partners that we work with on a regular basis. Beacon House, for example, has served 72 kids last year. Their farm rate, which is free and reduced meals, was 72%. So 72 kids, 72% farm rate, and they're going to be up to 100 kids this year. And their child care vouchers are also not comprehensive, and it does not cover every family. So it's a big need. We also work with many others, including the YMCA, Bright Eyes, Little Jack's Corner, the list goes on and on. So we'd like to, again, remove that barrier of child care for some families. We do have, again, stats I can bore you with the latest income thresholds for child care, so we are aware of all of that as well. I'm mindful of that. Basic life skills, financial literacy obviously is huge. Budgeting, we have an extensive financial education partnership. Goodwill is represented here in the room coincidentally. They are part of our collaborative with that already. Kelly, to my left, manages our financial literacy program, so this will be an element in that, again, teaching them about budgeting and about how to stretch the income that they are getting to make it go further. Professionalism, interviewing best practices, we all talked about already. Additional, again, IDs, birth certificates, expungement. Expungement is another issue for non-violent offenses that can keep people from having or attaining a professional certificate or a career, whether it's a minor possession charge, DUI from several years ago. A lot of people don't even know where to start with expungement, and that's another barrier for people getting gainful or meaningful employment. Expenses that go along with that, they could get through a curriculum program, but then they can't afford, again, uniforms, immunizations, background checks, fingerprints, all of those things. Program administration, so we are seeking to utilize ARPA funds to add a teammate to manage this specific program, because obviously we'd be bringing in many agencies to do this work. This person would also have to be meeting with all of our stakeholders, not just including clients, local agencies, but our local employers who call us on a regular basis, again, trying to find ways and creative ways to hire new people. So we would, again, obviously do all of the onboarding, intaking, interview, and then manage all of the metrics that we would be reporting back through the ARPA funds. We would do all of that in-house, and all of that would be managed under this program navigator. Another component of our program that we will be, this was what we were kind of most uncomfortable with, is, again, how do we market this? Because we found in our experience at United Way, things go really, really hot, really fast, or we have to work at them. So this is where it's a little bit more fluid with what we would need, but obviously we would need assets to share with our community, our partner agencies, seeking referrals, hosting information and community sessions, but we wanted to make sure it's comprehensive, what we're putting in front of you today. But again, this is the area that it's kind of like, depends on, the need, it depends on how many referrals and how our partners embrace it. So we try to be comprehensive, and the budget that we put here for you, which is on the next page. Again, this is a draft budget. Again, looking at everything from staffing, childcare, transportation. The number that we were given, we tried to work backwards from there based on what the problem areas were. Obviously, transportation and childcare is huge. We need someone to administer this program, because this would be an entirely new pathway for us in addition to the many other programs we're already managing. So we do feel confident that we would need a new program manager for that. So we've included salaries and fringe, technology, and then everything else is, everything else next to that really goes to programmatic expenses, which could be, again, many partners that we already work with, and we are also willing to open it up to an RFP process, to where if it is an organization or an agency that we don't already have a relationship with, if they can solve for the barrier that we're trying to remove, we will be opening it up to working with new partners as well. I said a whole bunch really fast, really quick, because this was a big presentation, so I'm sorry for speeding through, but I'm mindful of the time. Can I entertain any questions, concerns?
You guys have any questions?
I think you did great.
Well, I was trying to, it was like, it was a lot. Okay.
But, are you going to the county or any other municipality to seek funding?
We want to initially just start with the city, because that's where the most need is. And again, just looking at our Alice data, which is actually going to be significantly worse, unfortunately, than what I've presented to you, because this is pre-inflation, pre-COVID. We are in an active Alice study right now. We did a midpoint COVID Alice survey, which came back and said, obviously, which we knew, Alice families are disproportionately affected because they are our frontline people, our clerks, all of those things. So it wasn't a huge surprise, but we know that these numbers are going to unfortunately be a lot worse. So it's, we need to focus, we need to start where the need's the greatest.
So you wouldn't ask the county for?
Not for this portion of it. We're going to start with Hagerstown and then get this off the ground, because we still have to recruit. So we didn't want to just go county-wide yet until we could at least get our navigator in place, because my team is, we've been in active COVID response. Right now, we're running a hunger campaign because we're getting pummeled with requests for that. So we're just kind of at our capacity. So right now, we definitely need to just get Hagerstown under our belt. And then we actually do have several corporate partners, including United Way Worldwide, that is also helping us to grow this from not just, which has already been in the works, not just from Pathways to Hire, but we also have transportation coming, pathways to homeownership coming. So this is just, we are expanding, but we've got to start somewhere first, and this is where we feel like the fire's burning the hottest, unfortunately, because this is where I live, and I love it so much. So I want to make sure I take care of our community.
And we are in the county. We are in the county.
So, is the proposal a singular proposal, or is it a cafeteria menu in which we are being asked to look at?
So essentially, we have what's remaining from the ARPA funds is $425,000. So this is where, and again, it's going to be fluid based on the needs of our agencies, based on the needs of the individual client. So one client may come in and say, I need childcare. One client may come in and say, I just need some upskilling. One client may just need transportation. So it's really going to be what's based on the needs of the client. So right now, again, this is, we know we have $425,000 to serve Alice families. This is where we feel like we can make the greatest impact, and we also have to have it expended by December 30th, 2023. So it's not a significant amount of time. Is it 24? Okay, sorry, I misspoke. But it's not, so it's not a ton of time to say, well, we're gonna have like this major infrastructure upgrade and we're gonna, build new facilities. It's not a lot of money to do that type of infrastructure impact. So we know that this is the biggest measurable difference that we can do right away, and we already do this every single day. So when we grant out programs or we grant out funding, we have all of our agencies report back to us. Kelly manages the program. So that way we can hold the agencies accountable to make sure that they're meeting their metrics, but also that we're making measurable change and we're not wasting money, but we're funding the same programs that everybody else is funding.
So, of these list of items, I think that some of the questions that the council are asking as it applies to what the effort is specific to the city, and the county residents that live in the city, and specific then to your broader effort for folks on a countywide basis. I'm trying to look through this and say, okay, what are obligations of the city?
This is specifically just for our city residents, but we obviously still target county as well. We're not excluding the county by any means, but this presentation is just specifically for city funds. So that part of the ARPA grant is these funds, it has to only go towards city residents. So we can't serve our Williamsport that obviously needs a lot of help. We can't serve them specifically with these funds, if that's to answer your question. But we have other programs that we're focusing on, again, those outliers in the county, but this is specifically restricted to city.
And is there any portion of this proposal that is recurring, or that you expect to be recurring?
We do. And again, it's unfortunate that we're having to use ARPA funds because we didn't anticipate this, but we do feel like this is an opportunity that's presented itself because childcare and transportation has been a barrier for a while. This is just forcing us to really hyper-focus on it now. So and again, the past 2 years, we've been putting out PPE and emergency grants, and now we're able to really be more mindful and say, well, why are we continually to serve the same population, to serve the same agencies over and over again? So and it's my team and I, again, we're already kind of moving in this direction as it is anyways, but I think this is really, again, a model for us to say, let's take care of Hagerstown as best we can with these funds during this time period. But I think this is something that we can really duplicate and, again, take it out to other markets and working with our corporate partners and working with other grant makers to support us. But this is where we need to start. We need to do it really well here before we branch out other places. But this is a model, actually some other United Ways in different markets are already doing. So it's not like we're reinventing the wheel per se, it's finding what's our greatest barrier here. But I feel like this is transportation and childcare for years. It's always going to be something that's reoccurring.
And what do you do? What happens now with the United Way for the Alice?
So Kelly manages that whole program, which is pretty extensive. So I'll let Kelly just give a very brief overview on how that process works.
So currently, we fund about 13 programs throughout Washington County. When we receive a call, because we are getting calls, we have families showing up homeless on our doorstep. So what we do is someone will come in or call, and then we will refer them out. We already know who the players are, nonprofits, organizations that are providing assistance. So we already do information and referral. So we will kind of act as a middleman, so to speak, and reach out to organizations, reach out to Salvation Army or REACH or whoever that particular individual or family might need, and refer them out to those organizations. With this navigator, with Pathways Navigation, this navigator would actually be a United Way employee and would be meeting, assessing, doing an extensive intake, and then working with that individual as a case manager, one-on-one, to provide the services that they need. You know, Takesha would come to my office, she might need something, but her situation might be very different than yours. So we want to customize what we do for each individual so that they can have the best chance possible to success in employment. It's just like an individualized education plan. It's not going to be one size fits all.
So the gap is the person.
And what they need, you know, some people.
No, the gap is the employee, like the person specific to the program, like
Yeah.
that's a big gap.
Because
I
right
mean,
now,
I understand
it
all
is a
the
big
other.
gap. Yeah, and Kelly, for example, right now, we have 13 collaboratives that are actually actively doing something very similar, just not towards hiring. So for example, our financial education program we have right now. So the agencies will come to us and we will say, what are your metrics for the year? What are your metrics for the quarter? So then we will grant them their program monies based on what their metrics are, that they're gonna tell us what their expenses are. And then they turn in their reports every quarter to Kelly to make sure that they're on track to meet all of their goals, to meet their metrics. If they're not meeting their goals, essentially, it would almost be like a PIP, like a performance improvement plan. How are you gonna be able to meet X amount of clients, because this is what you said you were gonna do. We granted you these funds because you said that you were gonna serve 100 clients in person. So then Kelly is who's in charge of that, where she goes back and forth with the agencies, making sure that their metrics are met before we grant out any additional funds. So right now, it's Kelly trying to kind of manage the agencies and their metrics. Right now, we need, again, that extra person to add because we would want to do those referrals, have that intake process, and we just don't have the bandwidth for that. Plus, we're not really doing anything as far as in the hiring phase. Everything that we're focusing on is more of those, what people would kind of consider basic needs. So housing, shelter, again, the financial stability. But this is definitely more of that, again, moving them from that Alice to thriving instead of just surviving, which we're not really focusing on as much right now. Mostly, I would say our priorities are more of like those life-saving, those life-saving areas. So this is definitely, it's something I would think outside of our capacity right now to handle effectively, because again, it is still managing so many partners, which is a
So-
big task.
Do you think after the ARPA funds are finished, that your organization will be able to absorb the cost of that
Yeah.
employee?
Yep, I'm glad you actually asked that, because I'm ready to commit. We have annual campaign dollars that we raise every year, and we have been, I would say, increasingly frustrated in the past few years by continuing to put out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars each year, and we're just not seeing measurable impact. So now, obviously, some of that's been walked back a little bit because of the crisis that we've been in for the past 2+ years, but we just know that we need to do something different because we're tired of funding, the same programs, the same people at times, the same agencies at times, and again, nothing has changed. So going back and looking at those metrics and saying, like, this was the same metrics from 3 years ago. This was the same waiting list for services that we had 3 years ago. So we're very intentional in saying that we need to, and again, moving forward, which this is kind of forcing us to like move a little bit faster, but that we want to be intentional in what we're investing in. And it's, our industry's changed, so we have to, like it or not. It's, we can't just be a grant maker. You've probably all noticed, like, we're doing so much outreach lately, and we're putting out so much product and so much food. And so, yeah, we're committed to investing in this, and we also want to be sure that in order for us to attract top talent, to navigate this program and to be successful, that we need to give that person, he or she, some sort of assurance that, once we do this successfully and if it works, that we're going to be able to grow this and keep growing to, again, let's get into Williamsport, let's get into Hancock, let's get into Clear Spring next.
Who will verify that the individuals receiving the services or direct funding, are folks that are within the specific municipal limits of the city.
Yeah, that would be the navigator who would be serving under Kelly. And Kelly's our watchdog essentially now, so she goes through all of the agency's metrics, all of their reports, so she would be, the navigator would be reporting to Kelly, who again would be verifying proof of residency, proof of need, because again, we're not trying to target those people who are homeless and in poverty right now. That's not who we're solving for. We're solving for those Alice families. So, we have many partner agencies that we would be referring people to if they are homeless. This is not the program for them because they need to focus on those basic life-saving, food, shelter first. So that navigator would essentially be the intake person who would verify residency, need, and if, again, this is something that needs wraparound services, do we need to refer them to, one of our mental health partners? What exactly do they need, and can they be successful in this program?
There would be program requirements and verification.
So not just a Hagerstown address, I mean actually living.
No,
in the
actually
city.
living here,
We would
yeah,
have to verify the
Yeah.
address.
so.
Do you guys have any other questions? Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, up next, we have an outreach proposal from Horizon Goodwill Industries. We have Adam with us today.
All right, good evening.
All right, good evening.
Good evening. So I'm sure you guys have read what was proposed, but just a synopsis of the need that we see here in the city. Sorry, am I going too fast?
I don't.
Okay. I'll tell you all about it.
Okay. I'm looking like, wait.
Right, so on July 12th, there was a meeting here with other homeless service providers across the city. There seemed to be a theme throughout all the providers that we needed some dedicated outreach work. That
Desperately.
the need is, what was that?
Desperately.
Desperately, yes. And there's a lot going on in our homeless population, and we've been able to serve a vast majority of them. We serve a lot in Horizon Goodwill, whether that's in shelter, whether that's in housing navigation, and helping path people to permanent housing within our organization. And so collectively, I think as a group, we said we need some more dedicated help that's just for outreach. Right now, what we're doing as an organization is when the calls come in, we go. The calls come in often. The calls come in from a variety of people, whether it's law enforcement, city leadership, and we do our best to spring into action when we can. But what we've noticed, myself and Brooke, is that we're only two people, and that we needed some help. We needed some dedicated help to meet the needs around us. And so what we're requesting is allocation of $12,800 to hire 2 full-time outreach staff to serve the city. And this is in conjunction with a special HUD funding that was just released last week that we will be applying for to fund these positions past this 3-month period that we're requesting right now. So what we're requesting is to help fill the gap, because the HUD funding would not start till the beginning of November. So this would be from September, October, November, to get these positions up and going as quickly as we can. And these positions would be a little not as traditional hours as some. The goal here is to do perhaps maybe a Wednesday to Sunday schedule, 11 to 7, because what we're seeing is the needs are not just 9 to 5. And we're getting calls way beyond business hours. And again, we're happy to help, but we know that there's more that we can do. There's more that we can do collaboratively as a city, and we want to best serve the homeless population here and connect people with resources. What we're finding is some of the people that we're encountering may not be aware of what's out there, and we can help them navigate that, because I'm sure you guys know sometimes it's hard to navigate some of the red tape and things. It's hard to navigate how to get someone through a rapid rehousing process, because we not only want people to be housed and served, but we want them to sustain there. We want them to remain housed. And so these positions would solely be focused on the city of Hagerstown. and how we can best serve this city. So the request is for $12,800. 10,000 of that is actually a reallocation of what was awarded to us for the COVID placement for homeless individuals. What we found was the money that was awarded both from the city but also the county, most of the people we needed that funding for were not located in the city, they were located in the county. And so we said, well, how can we better utilize this funding to serve the city now? And so that is our request. Again, we're optimistic that as we go for the HUD funding, it's a 3-year grant that we are pursuing right now. We're optimistic that will be received well, given our past history. But that's what we would like to request this evening, so.
One of the consistent concerns that we heard that night
Yeah.
and throughout the country is finding people to fill the positions.
Sure.
I know that peer recovery and, it's just challenging.
Sure.
So do you have a plan for how you're going to combat that?
Well, I think the challenge in these positions is the non-traditional hours, but that could also be, advantageous to some as well. Historically, in some of our human services positions, because I get to be involved with a lot of those positions, is that it's not always the number of applicants, it's the right applicant, right? And so we're working through that pool as we speak. But we're confident that just within our community partnerships and things that we can, as quickly as we can't control all the things, to get these positions out there and posted quickly. And with the goal of starting September 1 or as close to that as we can. And one of the things we prioritize at Horizon Goodwill is making sure that we're paying in line with other agencies. Livable wage is a very important metric for us. And so we have to do on our end to make that a reality for those we serve.
And will this person be continuing with these families or with these individuals for a time period after they're housed? Like, will they be assigned then to a case manager at Goodwill, or?
Great question.
Or is it just, okay, we got you in, right, and there's so much need that,
Yeah.
I'm sure that individual will be very busy.
So primarily, this is actually 2 positions, because I see this as a team. Okay, so I would love to see this as a group going out in the city, not sending anybody by themselves as an island, but that we begin the process of connecting them with services. In our homeless community, I'm sure you guys have heard this already, but we use what's called the coordinated entry system, where we do a vulnerability assessment with those that we serve. And it's very important that people go on to the coordinated entry list so that there are more resources available to them. One of the holes we're seeing in our system is while there is a lot of need around, it's sometimes hard as an administrative lift to get people onto the coordinated entry list. And these staff members would be trained in that so that we can get those balls rolling and get the resources needed. So they would be a connector, if you will, to the housing navigation, not just with Horizon Goodwill, but with REACH, with the CAC. We have to do all this together. It's not just one organization doing all of it. We just see the need and would like to respond quickly to that need. Yeah.
Do you guys have any other questions?
So basically, it's just 2,800 additional ARPA
Yes.
funds above what you've already been given for
Yes.
the 10 grand.
And then we
Yes.
allocate the 10,000.
Yes.
Right, and it's a gap filler.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, I just want to say thanks for all you do. I'm sure my name pops up in your email and you're like, oh, gosh. And I'm sure Brooke would like to just block me from her cell phone. I have to call her
I
so
know
many
that
times.
feeling.
Thank you. But we appreciate all that you do.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
It's a lot right now, I know. Any other questions? All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Well, thank you guys so much.
All right, up next, we have the Maryland Bay Fee Hardship Exemption Program. Beth Everhart from Support Services Manager and Michelle, Chief Financial Officer.
Good afternoon, good evening, I guess I should say. So,
Good evening.
not typically some of the presentations that I do, but I'm here this evening in conjunction with Beth. We just want to make you aware of a situation and a change in an existing program that is happening and occurring that is outside of our control. And Beth has suggestions on how we move forward. So Maryland Bay fee, just to kind of give you a background. In April of 2006, our City of Hagerstown Mayor and Council at that point approved a program in order for us to be able to award a financial hardship and exempt those specific fees on City of Hagerstown residents' billings. And I guess I should take one step back further, I'm sorry. Maryland Bay fees are not something that the city decides to put onto a city resident bill and pass out to the residents. That is city revenue. Instead, it is mandated by the state of Maryland. So we don't have a choice. It's a state of Maryland program. The state of Maryland says, hey, we're gonna charge for these types of services. Now, cities, counties throughout and across Maryland, you need to administer that. You need to do the billing, you need to collect it, and then you need to remit it back to us. So as part of this program, there is a clause that states that the billing authority, so in this instance, the City of Hagerstown is the billing authority for all City of Hagerstown residents, much like Washington County is the billing authority for the county residents outside of the city. In other unincorporated areas, I'm sorry. So, in April 2006, the Mayor and Council, in a single motion, approved both the coordination and the establishment of an exemption, or this financial hardship waiver, along with the partnership with the Community Action Council, who simultaneously, City of Hagerstown and Washington County, in partnership and collaboration with Community Action Council, are moving forward with this mandate, with the financial hardship exemption, and that was the entity that was going to administer and receiving the applications, determine eligibility, because it was also the agency at that time that was also exempting, and again, the reason that you can exempt a person is defined by the state of Maryland. And one of the things is if you are receiving energy assistance. So again, a lot of the same clientele is already going to that agency, and they were doing that part of the program on our behalf. Again, in a single motion. So now current day, here we are, Beth and her, actually not even Beth, but a supervisor, a staff level city employee received an email from Community Action Council staff saying, we are no longer going to be doing this on your behalf. They also sent it to county staff at the same time. So now what we have here in the packet, in the memo, Beth, and in the packet we didn't want to put too much information, so I did include a copy of the original motion, because no matter what, we did one motion that did two things, and if we can no longer partner with the CAC to administer the eligibility portion, then we have to come back to this group and body to help us vote and find a way forward, right? So the original motion is there, Beth, and Beth has suggestions on what we're gonna do.
Well, we are required to offer a financial hardship program, and we've already gotten the guidelines established in 2006 through the state. So basically, we're just gonna take this back ourselves. We took the application that had CAC, we edited it, we're going to put that on our website. We'll mail it out to all customers. We're going to keep a detailed spreadsheet. They have 2 of the 4 criteria as outlined by the state guidelines. When they return it back to us, they're either going to be approved or denied. We will follow up with a letter, which they're currently not getting from CAC, and they're not going to get anything moving forward, obviously. And then we will exempt it off of their bill for 1 fiscal year. Now, they do have to apply every year, but that is also part of the state guideline, not our process.
So again, in the packet, as part of the original motion, there's also this Bay restoration fee, who at the time, the city mayor, Robert Grucci, I'm not sure if anybody knows him or not, but in May of 2006, he signed this document. And we had to provide this to the state of Maryland, right? So that they could see, one, we were establishing a program and what it looks like. We imagine that we are gonna have to resend this again because it has Community Action Council. But if you look on this, and then at the next document, which is our draft application, you're gonna see those qualifying factors that the state has determined, and so they're in this box. and you have to meet 2 of the criteria, one of course of which is receiving energy assistance, public assistance, supplemental social security income or food stamps, receiving veterans or social security disability benefits, household at or below poverty income guidelines. So again, the city of Hagerstown, we cannot make changes to those. Those are given to us by the state of Maryland. People are gonna have to prove those. There's a draft application. And what happens with this is typically, everybody has to reapply every single year, correct, Beth?
Correct.
So you don't apply once and are permanently granted an exemption. You would have to go through this application process yearly, which should already be occurring. If for some reason you do not reapply within the designated time frame, then you are not exempted the following year. And the state's very clear on, we at the city as a billing authority cannot just decide if somebody hasn't sent in the application in time to exempt them just because.
We have to have the supporting documentation.
Correct.
Did you say how many are currently receiving the exemption?
When this program started, there were over 500. We are down to 55 because we don't feel the information has gotten out. But we're getting calls all the time, so.
And we just want to make clear, because we know, that's going to be confusing. People are going to think, oh, well, the city of Hagerstown has a financial hardship application program. I'm going to fill this out, and it's going to apply to everything at the city of Hagerstown. And that's not true. This is specifically a state mandated fee, state mandated waiver, state mandated guidelines on what qualifies for that exemption.
We
So
will
we're going
not be qualifying for OHEP or anything like that,
Yeah,
just for
it's
this.
strictly for the
Right.
financial hardship exemption for the Maryland Bay fee.
Okay, the reality is, folks aren't, really interested in going through this process to save $20 a month. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right?
quarterly.
Quarterly.
For the most part,
For
these
the most
people.
part, quarterly.
20 quarterly.
I thought it was 60 a quarter.
Year.
60 a
15
year.
Yeah, 60 a year.
Yeah, 60 a year.
So just to do that, you know what I mean, is
Some people, though, you have to remember, the rest of their bill goes up and down, and they're already being hit again by inflation. Food is going higher, maybe what they're receiving in the way of supplemental assistance isn't, people who have to now pay for gas. So a lot of things are changing, but they're on a stagnant budgeted income. So that extra $15 doesn't seem like a lot on a quarter, but it is. So the reality is, we're asking our staff to monitor and make sure we got certain eligibility requirements that are not something that we typically, as a municipality, do within our own organization. But Beth has promised that she will find a way that either a single staff person or a committee of 3, and again, it would have to be a member of accounting, a member of there, and the utility billing financial manager, which I didn't tell her, but we'll have to volunteer her.
And we have had people already call, the lady that you were downstairs. I mean, she was tearful. $15 was a prescription to her, so.
Yeah, we just heard a couple items ago, how difficult it is for many families in the city, so, just kind of, I get it.
So what we're doing, we're making you aware, because again, we have to bring a new motion back and ask you to vote on it, and we don't want you to vote on it at the end of the month and not realize that, we're not making a program. It's not necessarily city staff coming up with a program or city staff coming up with eligibility or anything. We wanted to make sure you were as aware of the current information that we had to pass that along. Our residents, is definitely a need for residents, and our interpretation of the way that it's written by the state, that we really don't
have choice.
Correct. We really don't have the option to either do this or not do this.
Right. So this applies to all of our account participants, right? It doesn't matter whether you're in city or out city, if you are.
Right, so Washington County, the CAC, they sent the same email. They had partnered with both the city of Hagerstown and Washington County. So Washington County staff received the email at the same time that we did, after joint meeting had just been 1 or 2 months ahead of.
I was about to say.
They didn't really give us a reason.
I think the email said basically that this wasn't a function that they were mandated to do. And they absolutely, CAC staff is not mandated to this. It's something that they did in collaboration with us. It was set up in that manner.
For the last 16 years.
Right, and in 2006, across Maryland, there were other counties and cities who collaborated and partnered with Community Action Council to do that portion of the function.
Yep.
Even currently, there are some places across the state where their agency, either Community Action Council or that similar agency, is still doing that function. It's just that here, either they don't have the resources, or they don't have the capacity, or they're not, I can't answer why, because we really,
They didn't really give us a specific
we didn't get,
reason.
I didn't get a memo, city administrator didn't get a memo,
Oh.
I didn't go to the last board meeting, I'm on their board.
oh, there you go.
So, yeah, I feel like.
So maybe we should ask Councilmember McIntyre. Don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys, yeah, I mean, we don't.
Taking it back,
We gotta work around.
right,
Yeah.
we'll get it done.
Yes. So, when the application, there was a couple of places that were blanked out. We blanked them out because they're gonna have to be filled out every single year. So like the fiscal year that it covers, we'll update that every single year, and it should be there. It should be on there in multiple places. So if you look on the application at the top, it says Bay Restoration Fee, and it says form must be received no later than. That date will be put in there, right underneath that. Exemption period, 1 year only, based on fiscal year, that again will be filled in.
Yes.
Because it starts, so in order to be exempted from now until June 30 of 2023, you would have already had to put your application in place and been accepted through the application process at Community Action Council. So what we would be doing would be taking it over, getting new applications for July 20,
next year.
Next year.
fiscal year 23.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Pump Station 33, property acquisition. Hi, Nancy.
Hello. So, let me get to my spot here. We started talking about Pump Station 33, or at least I did with Mayor and Council in 2019. Pump Station 33 has actually been identified as a CIP project, East End Pump Station, for somewhere between 5 and 10 years. One of the things I asked of Mayor and Council a while back was that that we be able to go ahead and build the pump station, pre-spending benefit fee dollars. Essentially, we'll build it and they'll come. So we've kind of reached that point. ARPA funding became available to support utility projects, especially utility projects such as this. Those utility projects that supported economic development. This project does a good job doing that. Not only does it generate revenue for the Water and Wastewater Fund, it generates revenue for the general fund, both in the form of property taxes and business taxes associated with those commercial and/or industrial entities that could develop in that area. In the 70s, the city made a commitment as part of the annexation agreement to provide wastewater service in this area. Pump Station 33 certainly does that. Some of the questions that previously come up, we're dealing with the capacity of Pump Station 33 as it relates to the capacity of the existing Pump Station 9, which 33 will replace 9. So one of the things that I put together was a chart to show essentially the difference between the two. I would state that the current pump station 9, I went back and reviewed a study that we did a couple years ago, is at 92% capacity based on the 10-state standard for the peak flow, the peak day, peak flow. So, pump station 9 truly has reached its capacity. It's, it's got some age to it, and we really need to move forward with this project, period. It's aging infrastructure, it's infrastructure that no longer meets the need of of our current customer base. It's at 92% capacity. So I guess, with that in mind, wanted to kind of go over a couple things. The total EDUs that we were looking at for build-out in this area provided by work that Kathy's group has worked on, it's about 2,340 EDUs. The two properties, the Heb Road and the Emmerich property, that'll probably be first to come online, make up about 11% of that total. The chart, I'm going to jump back to it. It provides some of the initial numbers that we provided. I did add a CPI, PPI uncertainty dollar amount in there because what we've been seeing over the last couple of months or longer is the lead time sometimes is not been good, but we've also seen some pretty stiff increases on pricing. So I did add a CPI, PPI placeholder in there just for planning purposes. I also wanted to point out that previously we didn't assign a property value to the parcel that would be transferred to the city. And so I did look up the adjacent property in SDAT because the property where the pump station is going to go has an agricultural exemption and doesn't reflect the property value once that property is developed. That property value is roughly $65,000 an acre. So I did want to point that out. Also wanted to point out in the last column of the first page of the graph, we did the calculations looking to see, okay, what is the difference between just building, how we would build this pump station if we were only accounting for pump station 9. So the bottom line is $546,713 is that difference. We looked at, the gravity force main, the gravity main and the force main, we would increase the size of those pipes and primarily the cost associated with the increase in the pipe size. The excavation, backfill, and so forth is pretty much the same. We also reduced the pump size a bit, as well as the pump station, the wet well capacity. The wet well will be built regardless, so that we can expand the footprint of that wet well, so we can, and then we can also install different propellers in the pumps to accommodate additional flow. So that we did the 20% discount reduction there, and then we calculated, we actually got quotes to come up with the difference in piping. So if we were going to apply for MDE funding for this, we would apply for the total amount, and our local match would be the $546,713. So you just wanted to point that out. We did do a calculation for the two 8-inch gravity mains on the Heb Road property, and the cost, approximate cost, estimated cost for that is about $32,000. So, once again, we've met several times on this project, we're requesting mayor and council authorize that negotiations with council for the Harrison family for the acquisition of the property for Lot 1, as well as the easement for the gravity main and the force main for pump station 33. I did include in here also, just don't want to be remiss in pointing it out, the benefit fees that we would collect associated with the Heb and Emmer property. And if we assume the whole sewer shed would develop, we would anticipate in just wastewater benefit fees, give or take $10 million, depending on what the rates were. I will remind you that we are, Mayor and Council just approved a request to work with Black and Beach for re-rating to try to get the additional load for nitrogen and phosphorus with MDE. I think we can all be pretty certain that MDE will require some sort of improvements or enhancements to the wastewater treatment plant. So I would recommend that we also keep that in mind, that as we work through the re-rating, that we could have additional improvements that may be needed at our plant to satisfy that request for MDE.
So you're just looking today for approval to move forward?
Yes. Yeah, I need to.
Finally.
Yeah, we need, because I'll need to bring before mayor and council the ordinance for the property acquisition and the resolution for the easements.
So, if you were going to MDE, the way I read this chart is the 546,000. Is it okay if I ask questions?
100%.
Okay. The 546,000 would be the amount the state would say, hey, city, that's yours because you already have a plant there and you need to fix it anyway.
If we were going to apply a growth calculation, that $546,713, and so we would say that's what the city's local share would be, that we would cash fund. Our application for funding for loan and/or grant would be for this total amount, and then we would show that less this dollar amount for local match.
So is the 546 the growth amount that, so the way ARPA funds work is if you are applying it to utility projects, it has to meet the eligibility requirements as if you were submitting an application to the state through the federal pass-through state
Exactly.
Clean Water Act and right process. And so what I'm asking is, if you were to take this application to the state tomorrow and go through that process, and you were to go through that process with the state would say, hey, what portion of this is a city responsibility that is not eligible for our grant loan, really it's a loan program, we would say to them the 546,000 is the portion we believe is not eligible in your loan program.
Correct. What we are working towards with the design of the pump station, we're using the 10-state standard, and we would, like I said, the pumps will be slightly downsized to allow that peak flow, and the capacity of the pump station, the wet well, will be, it'll still be the same diameter, it just will not have the same volume capacity. So the numbers that I put together, I say we put together, my staff and I put together, look at, okay, if we were building just pump station 9, what would we do? And that's the numbers we put together. Looking at just pumps.
That's the 546.
The 546 is reducing the price of the wet well and the pumps by 20% and backing out the difference in the cost of the pipe, because we would put larger pipe, larger pipe in. So the 546 represents the larger pipe, gravity main. We're going from an 8-inch to an 18-inch if fully funded, and the force main, we're going from a 6 to the 12.
The gravity main deduct is $164,880 based on pricing we just received from Core and Main. And the force main, to go from a 6 to 12 is $84,661. The cost of to dig the trench and bed the pipe and so forth really doesn't change.
Right. The
associated
location
with-
point is moot, right?
I believe the location point is moot.
I'm fine with that. So being fine with that, and being fine with the fact that 546 is part of the 20%, I'm assuming associated with like the 90,000 EDU that you're already calculating, or the 450,
The 90,000, the 400.
yeah, the 450 EDUs, that's equivalent to.
That, the 546 is associated with the additional expense with upsizing the pipe and upsizing, if we were gonna upsize the pipe and upsize the pump station and the pipe, this is what I would reduce.
I guess my confusion is when I looked at Pump Station 9 where it sits, right? And Kathy sent us a map of like 73 things that are going on right now, like developments that are happening. And 10 of those 73 are out in this area. They were all in these green spots on the map, right? The green area looked about 2 to 3 times larger geographically than what Pump Station 9 currently serves, which is the 2,300 units versus the 450 units, right? So the 2,300 units is what's created. What I'm saying is if we went to the state of Maryland and said we want to build a new pump station, are we eligible to go through that loan program for the 2,300 units worth of new growth it's going to generate?
Yes, and the reason I'm
Okay.
gonna say yes is because we did submit that application and we did get ranked and rated. We withdrew the application
Okay.
because of ARPA funding. We were on for both Pump Station 13 and Pump Station 33.
Here's the crux of the question that I had last time and that I still have, and it applies back to our conversation October of 2021, is, in my impression of the ARPA funds, it's truly intended to be used as an economic driving fund, meaning what appears to be what we're doing is we're going to use the ARPA funds, right? Because for this state eligible criteria project, but we're gonna basically use it as our own loan program instead of using the state's loan program. So if I were somebody out there, I could make the argument, and I said this in our last meeting, I'm happy to say it here, it seems like we have these 2,300 units. We've met the federal criteria of spending down the money by 2024, but the reality is, all we did was create a loan program. We're gonna collect that money back for the next 10 to 15 years. And does that meet the federal requirement to say, yes, you've actually spent the money? Because to me, spending the money means we actually spent it, and anybody that connects to it, based on the money we used from ARPA to do it, gets to connect for free.
So I want to simplify this. So yes, we're talking about, the request that Nancy's going to bring back is moving forward on parcel and land acquisition, right? To put a new pump station. And that pump station is 2 components: to replace a current one because we have capacity issues and because it's past its useful life, while at the same time, the new location is ideal because there's going to be all this development.
It'll be 5 times bigger.
Right. And what I said to Nancy was this, because under the ARPA guidelines for water and wastewater infrastructure, it clearly states, in order to be eligible, instead of the federal government and the IRS coming back and doing this whole other program and resources and taking the time, because it would take time to develop a program and criteria, they said as long as the water, wastewater, stormwater infrastructure projects met the thresholds established under Maryland Department of Energy, Clean Water Act and such, then it would also then be eligible for ARPA. So what I challenged Nancy to do is exactly what you keep requesting. I challenged her to go back and I said, Nancy, overall, we're gonna have a total project. You tell me what the state would determine eligible and what they wouldn't. So she's now, and again, one of the other things that's not included in here is design costs, because the design costs we're already going to pay. Design cost is a part of the overall project, and the state would look at that. but it's costs that we're gonna use local funding for. Separately, then the construction piece is what Nancy is breaking down, and is separated out the $546,000 versus the other 3.2. So we would come back and say the 3.2 would be the portion of the project that would be eligible through MDE guidelines. So that's the portion we would have funded through our ARPA infrastructure portion, and then find local funding for the other piece.
And all I'm asking is, can we use our ARPA investment in this project the same way the state, MDE, uses its loan program for these projects?
That's our current understanding, yes.
Okay. I just don't want somebody to come back 3 years from now and say, wait a second, you didn't actually spend this money for economic development interest. What you did was create a duplication of what MDE does, and you're just collecting money back. So you really didn't spend the money down because you're getting paid back. And if I'm correct in what you just said, we're gonna spend $3 million and over that course of time collect $10 million. So not only do we not spend it down technically by the end of 2024, we're actually going to make money on that process.
Eventually, that's the hope,
I hear you.
as long as everything
As
develops.
long as some federal person says, yes,
And here's,
that's okay, I'm okay with that.
and here's the other thing that we're gonna do. All the paperwork that Nancy would have to keep separate for MDE to apply for those reimbursements, we're going to ask that we continue to keep these documentations separate, so that every step of the way, we can be applying this percentage. Meaning, once she's ready to move forward with this project, if it ends up being $4 million, the first 3.2 isn't gonna be ARPA and then local dollars after. That's not how that program works. It's every single time that you do a reimbursement draw, whatever that percentage is. So if it's an 80-20 overall split, then every time we draw it. So we are going to follow those guidelines and keep that same type of documentation so that we have it all together for our auditors.
Not just for this project, I'm assuming. So we're gonna charge everybody for each one of these water sewer projects that we're doing with ARPA, right?
There should be two.
Nobody's gonna get the economic development, price for it, which is 0. They're gonna get the full cost for it.
Correct. We're gonna treat everybody the same. Because that is absolutely something that has to be done by ARPA.
I mean, if you say they'll approve it, then like I said, I have no issue.
And that's what I've challenged Nancy to make sure she provides to us, so that it passes the audit.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. All right, annexation of lands
you
of
never have to
GVP.
I know.
Look, I just don't want us to get in trouble 4 years down the road.
We appreciate your due diligence. Thank you so much. Michelle
100%.
especially.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome.
See if I can get this thing, here we go. Putting me in charge of technology is never good. Okay. I'm here because the city is initiating the annexation process for the lands of GVP Hagerstown LLC at 2 through 14 Western Maryland Parkway. And that is the tract of land that if anyone has driven around in that area recently will see that there's a lot of grading that's going on because it's underway. And so it's the land at the north side of West Washington Street and the south side of Western Maryland Parkway, across the street from the neuroscience facility, and just down the street from First Data. So this map shows you the property, the white arrows pointing to it, and everything that's colored in is in the city. The part that's just like an aerial map is what's outside the city. And it's, let's see, I've already gone through that. It's in the city's growth area. It's contiguous to our boundaries. It will be served by city water and wastewater. In fact, the service has been approved as part of the site plan process and the building permit process, which has already been approved and issued by the county as per our pre-annexation agreement. It's 21.436 plus or minus acres. The existing county zoning is highway interchange. The proposed city zoning is industrial mixed use. Our IMU matches up, as everyone knows, that the county's highway interchange is a very broad, pretty much anything you can think of that you want to do, you might be able to do it there. Our IMU matches up with the industrial and the professional technical services kind of side of their zone, while I'm not allowing for some of the more broad commercial things that are allowed in the highway interchange. So it's, in our comp plan, we identified this land as being appropriate for business employment, and we feel IMU best suits what their desire to do with the land was speculative warehouse development, and so that's why IMU was proposed. Here's an aerial photo prior to the grading. Now that area would be brown as opposed to green. That was a site plan as we saw it earlier this year. May have been tweaked a bit before it was finally approved by the county. And so, in March, the mayor and city council entered into a pre-annexation agreement with the property owners about what steps would be taken prior to an annexation and what triggers the actual annexation process to begin. Well, that trigger has now been pulled. The county has approved the site plan and the county has issued the building permit. And so now we're starting the process this month of the annexation. The planning commission for the city, last week, they reviewed the draft annexation plan and their requested zoning, and they're recommending that the mayor and council approve both. The next steps, if we are ready with the annexation resolution, would be to introduce the resolution next week at the regular meeting and approve the annexation plan at the regular meeting. And then the soonest that we can hold the public hearing per all of the steps the state requires for tracts of land, it would be late October. And then if it's approved in late November, it would become effective on January 6th. So that's the quickest we can get it going, hoping we can be helpful to the developers as they look for prospects for this property.
Do you guys have any questions for Kathy?
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
So we back next week with the motions.
Yeah, definitely. Request for exemption to city water policy. We have Doug and Nancy.
You guys said you were hot 20 minutes ago.
It was hot, no? Feels much better than it did.
Do we have only 2 settings in City Hall?
Yes, I
50?
think so.
Yeah, hot and cold.
Hot and cold, that's it.
50 and 80. There's 2 numbers on the dial.
So we received a request to review, from Washington County's Board of County Commissioners, the consideration of approval of Exception 6 to the city's water and wastewater policy for a vital economic development project, or an economic development project located in the target economic development area as delineated by the county's 2002 comprehensive plan. Some information about the project. The developer is Hewitt Extended LLC and Bowman Development Corporation. The business type would be a speculative flex industrial warehouse and office building located at Maryland Route 63, which is Greencastle Pike, just south of the intersection of Maryland Route 40, which the site contains approximately 57.5 acres. The expected capital investment for the project will be $18.5 million and create roughly 200 jobs. The requested water usage would be 2,200 gallons per day or 11 EDUs. The property is currently owned by the developer. Upon water approval, the developer will begin proceeding shortly thereafter with a site plan. So the location of the site is halfway in the medium-range growth area and half identified as an economic development priority E in your included map that was reviewed by the city and county back in June of 2020. The approval, if granted, would be for the entire 57.5 acre parcel. Yes, this would be city water and county sewer for the project. The site would be not so unlike a recent approval with Trammell Crow on Greencastle Pike that we recently approved, I believe, 2 months ago. As the Community and Economic Development and Utility Departments, we recognize that water and sewer for the parcel may be available per Exception 6 of the Water and Wastewater Policy, and staff is seeking a direction from Mayor and Council for Exception 6 for the proposed economic development project. Approval using the exception is contingent upon the recommendation of the Board of County Commissioners with the attached approval in your packet, the County Economic Development Director, as well as the City Economic Director and the City Utilities Director, and upon Mayor and Council's approval. Mayor and Council's approval will also be contingent upon receiving a pre-recorded pre-annexation agreement. And should the Mayor and City Council desire to approve the water service for the parcel, staff will prepare the required documents for the next regular session. Nancy, any further comments?
The only thing, I would just reiterate, is it's for the entire parcel, 57.5 acres, and it is one parcel, not two. It's just that the UGA line divides the parcel.
And just.
The UGA or the MRGA?
The MRGA.
MRGA, I'm sorry, I'm
And
sorry.
we created the MRGA
Right.
line, right?
Right,
Okay, so we sliced it in half.
we did.
Okay.
So the UGA was established, and then we created the MRG.
Correct.
And at the county meeting, because I always happened to be sitting there when they discussed this, Jonathan said that in the internal staff discussions that have happened, part of the adjusted MRGA would include this whole track, it just hasn't gotten to us yet.
Correct.
That's
Yeah, that would be Site E. So if you're looking at Site E on your map, the right-hand side of that would be actually inside the MRG for the parcel, and the left-hand side is that Site E.
Where's Trammell Crow?
In
Which one
relation
of
to
these
this
green
map,
is this?
That's the,
it is number G. Yeah, letter G.
G does have a number associated with it.
There are, to me, there's three issues. One, we shouldn't be dividing properties. I just think that that's asking for headaches. So, like on that side of the coin, I agree with the property owner's request, you know, that they have the ability to make the request. The second issue that I have is when you read number 6, it doesn't talk about these things. It only says the economic development area, the identified economic development area of the airport. So, I mean, I just feel like that language is deficient as it relates to the sort of compromised conversations that we had with the county.
It's for a vital economic development project,
Yeah.
or, the or, I think, is where's
And
the
I-
difference.
When we implemented the term vital, in the era that we adopted that, it was clearly a different economic climate. You know, and that term, clearly, the spirit of that term was, you know, meant for much more impactful requests for the water. So on that side, I think that we need to massage that language if we're going to leave this map. But then that brings us back to the fact that I feel like it's almost 3 administrations now where we've like sort of tried to push this ball just a little bit with the county, and we get just far enough to say, okay, you know what I mean? If that's far enough to make you happy at this point, we'll solve the rest, you know, forthwith. And I don't feel like the forthwith has come yet. You know what I mean? Like that line that we just constantly move to say, we'll do another one, and we'll do another one. And I will say again, I think the simplest, we had this conversation in our only 2+2 meeting, which are obviously gonna be held with different people now,
Sorry, you just made me think of something here and I didn't respond to a request, sorry. You
So,
just- That was the light bulb going on.
I feel like we're gonna get to that number, and you're gonna tell us, on the water side, we got 12 million gallons. Let's just use that number, we got 12 million gallons, right? And I feel like we need to get to that point where staff's gonna say to us, we got 12, we're using 9, we need 2 left in this city, there's 1 left over. And I feel like at that point, we just tell the county, look, wherever you decide you wanna spend that 1 that's extra outside of this blue line and inside the red line, you know, the onus is gonna be on you, so that these quit coming here. Like, I don't feel like that necessity needs to happen, but I don't feel like we're getting to that point. All we do is we piecemeal approve, which then points, I think, to the deficiencies in, you know.
Yeah, and that goes
well,
back.
unfortunately, I don't think development stops because we're trying to figure it out. But I know we're on
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
On the cusp
I'm not
of
saying it
figuring
doesn't.
It hasn't yet.
I'm just saying I think that's the point we need to get to.
I do think we need to
100%.
set a deadline, but if from all, they say that staff is working fine together, so I don't know why it hasn't come here yet, but.
Well, it has to come. What are we talking about?
It hasn't, this has not changed to be our MRGA yet, because there's a lot we have to do to
Right.
update the comp plan.
Right.
It's just not a matter of moving the line.
Right.
But when we were approving exception number 6 things, we heard from the council, we don't wanna do this anymore until you get with the county and the county tells us what is your priority. This map is what the county identified as their priority, so we feel like now, we are coming forward with cases that fit into what you asked
Yeah,
us to do.
I'm fine with that. I think we need to get to that point where, you know, we know the volume.
Right.
Yeah, and we're working on that too.
And the county can wrestle with the politics of who outside of the blue, inside of the red.
This is it. Make it fit.
Gets the remnants of what we have to spare.
Yeah, what we're trying to figure out right now is what the capacity would be for all these warehouses that we have pre-annexation agreements for. Because they come in at, oh, it's just gonna be 300 gallons per day. We know that's.
Yeah, you might as well not put those numbers on the board.
Well,
You might as well give
or
everybody
if it comes in
10,000.
a spec and it's not, and then they say, oh, it's not a warehouse, we don't want it to be a warehouse anymore. We wanna build 10 million widgets.
Or pick a number, pick a minimum number it has to come in at, 10,000 gallons. Whatever that number is, that you can cross off the board until we get our numbers locked in.
Well, with the code amendments that will be approved, it puts a process in place. So when we approve 2,200 gallons per day, in order for that to be increased, they have to work through that, they're gonna have to work through that process that we put in place to address these issues, whether it's a property that's already there or it's a property where allocation was already approved. So we've started down that road with those, those amendments that will become effective next month.
Because to put it in perspective, I think for the folks that sit out there and I say, think we have it not, endless supply, I go back to just our last conversation, right, where we're gonna get ready to spend $3.5 million for 2,300 more EDU of sewer. And when you apply that to the water side, because there ain't anybody else out there providing water, that's 460,000 gallons of water that we gotta make sure. And when you're telling me we're down to like 2 million and some change left to go, I wanna make sure that we have that amount when you're showing me a map of 73 developments on a map and 10 of them happen to be in this area, that we have enough water to say, yep, it's gonna go to those areas. And those areas outside of the blue, they can figure it out some other way.
So in response to this request, seeing as it is half in, half out, are you guys okay with granting the exception?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
On this one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Review a 216 South Prospect Street addition to the CNS program.
Okay. Some background on 216 South Prospect Street.
I really didn't see you there. I was like, where'd he go? I've had a long way to come here. I was like, where'd he go?
So we're going to review 216 South Prospect and adding it to the city's competitive negotiated sale. Some background on the property is, on May 10th, 2020, the property had a significant fire causing damage to the structure. On July 21st, 2020, the city decided to accept a donation of the property from the owner and proceed with demolition. The city took title to the property November 5th, 2020. Demolition of the building was completed December 3rd, 2020 at a cost of $28,200, and staff are seeking the addition of the site to the CNS program for transfer of the property to the private sector. And just a brief summary about the competitive negotiated sale process. Is a process that facilitates the sale of city-owned properties with the goal of returning the property to the private sector for redevelopment and highest and best use. The City of Hagerstown makes real estate available for purchase and redevelopment. The Department of Community and Economic Development coordinates the process and accepts purchase applications. And the mayor and city council identify properties to be offered for the sale and ultimately approve any development concept and purchase.
Good with adding it?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, down payment assistance program, proposed guideline changes. Chris and Margie.
Good evening, everyone.
Last spot.
It's Donna. I don't know what I did to make Donna mad.
Do you enjoy being?
I mean, sometimes it goes by really
I was
fast.
just curious.
Well, at least you guys know I'm here, though, so that's the biggest
Yeah.
thing.
This is Chris, he's here.
And this is Margie Joe. I don't believe that you guys have met her yet. She's our
Margie.
business community development finance specialist, longest title in the department. So, the middle of June, we came to you with guideline changes for a number of our Invest Hagerstown programs. One of them being our homeownership down payment assistance one. This is just following up on that, a simple one-line edit to add a specification to cap the purchase price for our down payment assistance program at 125% of the average home price within the city. That way, we are making sure that our city funds are able to go towards the homeowners that need it. Do you have any kind of questions?
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
You guys good? Sorry.
Oh, I'm glad you waited all this time.
Margie didn't break a sweat up there.
Pretty much.
These are always so quick.
Margie's here sweating that
first
you guys are gonna give her the 9-degree and all that kind of stuff.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna wait till your second time up here to do that.
We have 5 slots left. We do have one application that's not quite complete yet, so I'm just waiting for the application packet on that, but.
That's awesome.
So out of the 16 slots since the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st, we're already down to 5 left.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Good job. We're doing great. Shelley's words, we're doing great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
You're doing great.
City Administrator.
Just a couple things, Mayor. This Saturday, the 20th, the fairgrounds will be hosting the air-cooled Volkswagen car show, bicycle show, and vintage motorcycle show. The group Simple Transport 14 is actually who's putting this on. Show's hours are 8 to 3. Spectator fee is $5. Children 12 and under are free. Show includes a car and bicycle swap meet, food vendors, crafts and games for kids, raffles, prizes. More information can be found at www.simple-transport.com. That sounds really cool. And that'll be Saturday. Also, after I think is a 3-year hiatus, Wind Down Friday is coming back.
Wow.
On South Potomac Street, starting out at 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock. Staff Infection is the band, and super popular and good band. And there will be a hot dog eating contest sponsored by the Dog House.
Seriously? Are you going in?
I can do that.
There you go.
Did you, Donna,
The
did you
gauntlet
get-
has been laid.
I'm gonna put your name in. All right.
Yep.
Oh,
He's got that Joey Chestnut
He
physique
does,
to
he
him.
does.
I am so
Yeah.
And
excited
I
for
see you drink
this.
water.
There you go.
Yeah.
I am so excited for this.
And lastly, I don't know if he is watching, but Stretch, hang in there, brother. Stay strong. And every day, we are thinking about you. That's it for me.
Yep.
Councilmember McIntyre.
I went to a play this weekend and ran into the Sister City Ambassador, Mike Kiefer, at the theater. And he informed me that the Hagerstown, Indiana Little League is in the World Series. And their game is this Thursday at 3 o'clock. So several of us have gone to Hagerstown, Indiana and met, lots of the players in that whole city.
They are
So
a strong team.
it's super, super, super exciting. So, Mike, if you're watching, now everyone knows. So, anyway, this Thursday at 3 o'clock is their first game. That's it. Yeah.
Councilmember Bertram.
Two things for me. One, our condolences to the Schley family. Bob Schley, city council member from 1981 to 1989, passed away recently. And heartfelt condolences to the Schley family. Second, just listen, a huge shout out to Captain Langston for putting together these teams that have been, doing great things in the city of Hagerstown recently. If you've been following some of the posts on Facebook of what they're getting off the street and what they're doing, then I happen to know, I've been checking the South Cannon, North Cannon corridor. Looks a lot better than it has in a long, long time. So keep up the good work and, get those things off our streets. Thanks.
Councilmember Burnett. Councilmember Alshire. Councilmember.
So I just want to I just want to shout out the two servers at Bulls and Bears from last Tuesday. A young man came in that's very well known in the community. I won't say his name, but he came in and they walked up to him and said, "Are you hungry?" He said yes, and they put in 2 orders of chicken tenders and French fries and got them sweet tea. And I thought that that was amazing. I looked at Councilwoman McIntyre and I said, wow, what an amazing community that we live in. That a young man from the Jonathan Street area under the age of 12 comes all the way down to downtown with his sibling, his little brother, and he gets fed in one of our restaurants, and 2 servers made sure of that. That was just a beautiful thing to sit and watch. And he left them a tip. And they were really, really like, oh my goodness, oh, I don't want to take it, but he left us a tip. And that was just amazing. And then also Saturday, Day of Hope, Brother Andy, Brothers Who Care did an amazing thing in the park that has been consecutive and consistent. Right after that, there was actually 4 churches that were represented on Jonathan Street. And they're going to be meeting on Jonathan Street on Saturdays at 2:30 and just doing prayer and singing. And I mean, there was a church from Waynesboro, there was Harvest Time Ministries, Zion Baptist, and Greater Camphor Ministries were out there. And I just thought that was amazing on Saturday to see different women from different church bodies out there ministering together. So it's good stuff. That's it.
So I echo Councilman Brucci's comments about the Schley family. We are keeping you with us. Also, Saturday evening, I had the privilege of attending the Hagerstown Fire Department to Keisha as well. They did a drive-by at Dewey's house for our fire marshal. It was HFD, HPD, and CRS, and I just said I wasn't gonna cry. It was the most beautifully tragic thing I've ever seen, so thank them, and if you're a prayer, please pray. If you send lots of lights and lots of light for Stretch and Nina as he transitions in Dewey's house. So that's it. We're adjourned. Thanks. I couldn't get it out without crying.
That's okay.
Hello and welcome to Council Wrap. I'm Wes Decker, joined by the mayor, Emily Keller. And Mayor, always good to have you on. There's always plenty that can be discussed. You do a pretty good job of that on your own, but it's nice to have you in this forum to talk about things a little bit. Let's begin with where we sort of left off earlier with the council meeting and a couple of requests for proposal coming before mayor and council. Can you help people sort of understand that process a little bit, and in particular, the ones that came before the council tonight?
Sure. So I think tonight we were seeing two different sides of organizations trying to help our community. With United Way, that was for the Alice customers, the clients who are working, clients who are struggling, but may struggle with childcare, maybe one incident away, like a unexpected insurance bill or something like that, from losing their home or from being really financially crippled. Then we had a proposal from Horizon Goodwill to hire outreach coordinators, which came from the meeting of outreach providers we had a couple weeks ago. And so they will be able to go out onto the streets to reach the people who are homeless, to reach the people who are struggling, and wrap services around them, get them enrolled in case management, and then hopefully house them and meet their needs and get them in a better position. So this is a snapshot of two agencies who are working on similar but different populations, but all to help better the community and make sure that we are thriving, that people aren't losing their homes, and that the people who are homeless right now will not remain that way for some time.
And how encouraged are you to see organizations come? Horizon Goodwill obviously was here for that conversation a few weeks ago, but just to see them come in, make proposals like this, and to have plans in place, but just say, hey, we need a little bit of help here as it relates to money. Can you do something? We're working with, and specifically with people who are in the city of Hagerstown.
Yeah, I think it's inspiring because I've said it a million times, but this is an all-hands-on-deck approach.
Yeah.
Like, this is not something that a government can solve. This is not something that Horizon Goodwill can solve by itself. This has to be all of us working together. So we need feet on the streets. The city just filled our first ever outreach position that's going to report to HPD. They can work with all of those services, and it's about knowing where to send people. So if someone comes into your business and says, I don't have anything to eat, now we have somewhere to send them with resources for that. So it's all about working together. That's why we've had the meetings with the different organizations that we've had, because we can all bring something to the table. We have our own police department. Our police are out working on the criminal aspects of things. And now we have ARPA money that we may be able to help with those outreach coordinations. And, Horizon Goodwill is very good at housing people and job training. So United Way is very good about providing resources. And we have a lot of that in that community. So we're all working together to better this community. Listen, we have issues. We know it. And we're seeing it very relevant right now. It's warm outside. The shelters are closed. People don't really have anywhere to go during the day. And drug use across our nation is up drastically ever since COVID. So there's a lot of things happening all at once that there's no silver bullet to answering. But it's not for lack of effort, for sure. And I think a lot of organizations are stepping in and saying, okay, we're willing to step up and partner even more than we've done in the past. And that's great to see.
Yeah, and I hope people recognize that a little bit, whether they see the movement as quickly as they would like to see it or not. I think you have to recognize that because, as you alluded to, people love to say, well, I pay taxes, so who's going to take care of this for me? And in a way, yes, that is correct. Certainly, you look to those that you pay your taxes to make changes, to make a difference, to make things better. But at the same time, as you said, there are many things that can be dropped on the city of Hagerstown's doorstep that the city itself cannot affect. They cannot make that change as a whole. It needs to be that collaborative effort, that partnership to make that difference that we all want to see. It's not going to happen fast enough, but there are plenty of good things that are happening, and I think there was a little bit of an allusion to it. I think Councilmember Brucci mentioned at the very end about what our police department is doing, and it's been a very, very difficult job. It continues to be, as you said, it's warm outside, not only for those people not being able to get into shelters, but it seems to be a little bit of a gaslight for this illicit activity that takes place, and it's certainly more noticeable. But so has Hagerstown PD. They've
Yes.
been much more noticeable, and they've been making a difference.
Yeah, and I think, it's a double-edged sword posting all that out there, and you and I talked briefly about that earlier. All we ever see from the Herald Mail is the crime, there was a shooting, there was a this, there was a that. So the public doesn't see the flip side of that. The public doesn't see the 40 arrests we made last week with serious drugs and guns. And so I understand that perception can be, wow, look at all those drugs and guns, but wouldn't you want them off the streets instead of
Right.
on the streets?
Yeah.
So I see both sides of posting the good things that HPD is doing, because it certainly can bring out a negative, connotation of what's happening here. But the reality of it is they're working really, really hard, and they deserve that credit too. They deserve that credit too.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, and it's been a collective effort to work on that particular area of town. I think I'm seeing it for the last 2.5 years. It's just seemingly gotten worse and worse. And let's face it, when we're talking about that area, which is down on Washington Street, right there at the corner with Cannon Avenue, the problem is that it's such a centralized area. I mean, it's a place where there are enough amenities, so to speak, enough businesses that satisfy certain wants and needs that people kind of gravitate there. And then there's a lot of activity in general. So when you add all of those elements together and you have people wanting to do nefarious things, it just sort of breeds more of that. So more attention needs to be paid. But again, as we've said, and it's beating an old drum here, but it's true, HPD just doesn't have the staff that it needs. We're getting better.
We're getting better though, and it's
And they're
we
doing
have 6
everything
in
they
the
can with
academy
what they
right
have.
now.
Yeah. I mean,
we're
we're
in a much
working
better
on it.
place than we were.
Right,
And those
exactly.
businesses that now have been working together, which
Yep,
they're
that's-
starting to see differences
that's
too.
huge.
And we're all in this together, and
Yeah.
it takes all of us, to solve all these issues. Another thing is that a lot of people don't seem to understand is that loitering is not illegal. It was ruled unconstitutional. If it's private property and the private business owner says you can't be on my property, that's one thing. But if it's just a public street or something, that's not unconstitutional. Now, if you're committing crime, that's another thing. But being homeless is not illegal. So if someone's sitting outside on a bench all day with all their belongings and you don't like it, they're not necessarily doing anything illegal.
Right.
If they're littering, if they're, whatever, that if they're going into businesses and causing trouble, but people just being homeless is not a crime.
No, it's
It's not, and it's a terrible predicament to be in. But these are what our outreach coordinators are going to be able to do and help coordinate. There's a shortage of housing. I mean, we all know that, and so we have to find solutions of where to house people and how to meet their basic needs before we can expect them to go get a job and those kind of things. I mean, imagine not having any place to get food or go to the bathroom or take a shower. I mean, this is the reality for some people, and
yeah.
the solution is not easy.
No, I mean, rewind to the presentation that we received from United Way about those who might be on the brink of something, and all it takes to keep those people in the place where they are just in case. But now, what you're talking about is helping people sort of start over or start anew. And man, that is an even more difficult prospect, given that we're living in a time where inflation keeps getting, all prices are going up.
Yes. And I mean, we're going into a recession, as we know.
Well, I didn't want to go there.
Yeah, me neither. But I mean, housing is hard to come by right now, and we're pricing ourselves up because the cost of housing is so high. So it's a complex problem, but contrary to popular belief, it's not a Hagerstown problem.
Right.
Like, this is a Maryland problem, it's a United States problem. I mean, I talk to other elected officials all the time on a regular basis, because why reinvent the wheel if another community has a solution to the issues that we're facing? So we have like a network of mayors and council members and stuff, we talk all the time, and these issues are the same issues that we're dealing with all over the state, and everyone's beating their head against a wall going, okay, like what can we do to help? And if we help one person that day, that's better than zero. So we got to do that. But, we have a great staff here in the city. We have great organizations who work every day and go out and, someone left our meeting, Brooke Grossman left our meeting tonight and went out to deal with some kids who were in an area of the community, and she recognized them through a picture that was sent and went out to take care of it. Like, that's not even her job, but there's people in this community that care enough to step up and do it. And there are many others like her, and we have a great police department who's putting in the work, and public safety officials that are partnering with us and helping. And again, I get accused of having rose-colored glasses all the time because I say there are great things happening here, but there are. And on the flip side of the not-so-great things happening here, there's a heck of a lot of people working to fix it.
What did you learn from your coffee with the mayor discussions? I know there were a lot of different discussions. A lot of people came to you with different issues, topics, things of that nature. But overall, what did you learn from that?
So we had some interesting suggestions. One person came about trash downtown and downtown pickups twice a week, and he said, why don't you look into 3 times a week? So I requested staff to price that out to see what it would be. Another thing, a lot of it stemmed from trash in neighborhoods and where trash cans are positioned and how it doesn't look nice. And
so it is people taking pride in their community,
Absolutely.
which is a very positive thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And Scott and I had a conversation about pricing out what it would cost to give everyone in the city a uniform trash can like they have in the county, because trash cans are expensive and some people just don't buy them. So if we could provide a city-owned trash can like we do a city-owned recycling bin, that may seem like something really simple, but it would make a big difference to the aesthetics, especially on the streets that are so close together. There's no other options for trash cans to be in the back. But people talked about all types of things. People talked about the development going on in the city. Some people talked about their concerns for the homeless. Some people talked about their concerns on the shortage of police officers, which we were able to discuss. We're actually getting better, and here's some of the things going on. Even some traffic concerns, like can we get speed bumps in my neighborhood, which unfortunately the answer is always no because of public safety vehicles.
Yeah.
But stuff that we all, I live on Summit Avenue. Where I live is a straightaway, so people speed every single day, and I am absolutely the neighbor out there walking to my car yelling, "Slow down!" But there's stuff happens. It happens in all of our neighborhoods, so it's very. I left that meeting that was supposed to be 2 hours, the coffee with the mayor. I was there for almost 4, and I was actually super energized. Like, even there was criticism and frustrations aired, and it wasn't certainly rainbows and butterflies the whole time, but it was encouraging because 1, so many people came out, and 2, almost every single person that came out, even if they came with a complaint, also came with a suggestion or just I see the positive change in this, but I see the downturn here, so I want to fix this before it affects the positive change.
Wow.
And that to me was heartwarming because
Yeah.
I got to see, there's probably 40 people that came, round table throughout the whole time, and it was inspiring to me.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people that care.
I think the next time you need to charge admission. Yeah. You got that many people showing up, that's pretty good.
I offered to pay for coffee and they had a tab going, can of coffee, and it was $10. So apparently no one, wanted us to buy their coffee, so.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, they didn't take much advantage of that. We hope people will take advantage of Wind Down Friday coming up this week, though. I know you have to be pretty pumped about that because you've been an advocate of closing street down when we can to sort of facilitate things like this. So can you sort of give me your feelings on looking forward to that?
I am excited to have Wind Down. That wasn't a city event all those years. It was a Maryland Theater event. And while they were going through their transition, very clearly that's a lot of work. So I'm excited. Brittany's in her role and working on these events. And I think the more community togetherness we can feel. Everyone loves good music. Everyone loves to be outside on a beautiful day and listen to good music and eat good food. If you drink beer, drink beer, whatever that looks like. Everyone likes that kind of environment and have activities for your kids and feel like community again. I think the more we can do that, the more we can see that we really, really, really have a great community.
And what are the odds of Councilmember Alshire being in that hot dog eating
I hope he
contest?
does it.
Yeah,
I
wouldn't
hope
that
he
be
does
great?
It would be awesome.
I'll tell you what, we don't get many opportunities to see him out at events because he has such a large family, has a lot of commitments to that. But if we could get him out there and eating hot dogs in a
awesome.
competitive situation, man, that would get me out there for sure.
Me too, me
Yeah,
too.
Well, we look forward to all of the great things coming up and also continue to work on a lot of things. And I know you don't shy away from any of that. If anyone needs to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that? They should probably know by now, but just in case.
I mean, they can email me, ekeller@hagerstownmd.org. It's on our website too. I'm on all social media platforms.
What?
Yeah. Hey.
I hadn't noticed.
I mean, my cell phone's public. It's 301-991-6773. I have people call and text all the time. If you're not an emailer, I would prefer a text just so I know who I'm talking to. And yeah. I'm always willing to sit down and listen, even if I don't like what I have to hear. I wouldn't have ran for office if I didn't.
Yeah. You have to have thick skin, and then you also have to be someone who is willing to take the criticism and then find the positivity in that in terms of building off of that to make things better. And I think you do a great job of that. So
Thank you.
Appreciate you spending some time with us here following the council meeting.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks to all of you for watching, and see you next time on Council Wrap. For now, that is a wrap. Thanks.